Hey everybody, I'm live, but as you can see, the only person in the JPA meeting room is Oakland Assistant City Administrator Betsy Lake. So, meeting is supposed to start now. I guess they don't have a quorum. Let me put this out there anyway. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Guidry. Okay. So back to the salt mines. Don't know what's going on. Hey, how you doing? Uh, Let me see to make a call here or a text. I'm texting Nate Miley to find out what's going on. The room and no Zoom. It just says Betsy Lake. I know it's supposed to be remote. They have some members. David Halbert was going to do supervisor, Alameda County, who is holding the seat that was once held by Scott Haggerty and Gail Steele for him. Rest in peace to Gail. Was to do this remote. So whatever's going on is now 6 minutes in, and there is no sign of activity, just Betsy's name, as you can see. That's it. Okay. So let me go back here. Normally by this time you have a bunch of members in. Nothing. Trying to find out if there's a quorum. They are way late. And we wonder why there are no sports teams in Oakland after the A's. We cannot start our meetings. Oh, here we go. Now we have the meeting. Right. That's Rebecca Kaplan. Let me see something here. Okay. Okay. Now we have. Now I see. Yes. You got to fuck up. Hold on a second. You got to fuck up. You got to fuck up. And give somebody there some entertainment, but also allow us to forget the fact that they're almost 15 minutes late from starting. Which I'm going to write late start. There is no quorum. That's the problem.
Everybody, I am very pleased to share that we now have a quorum of the body present in our multiple forms. And thank you for the music. We were just discussing that we need music at the start of the city council meeting. So thank you for the inspiration. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. And seeing as we do have a quorum present between those physically in the room and those teleconferencing, we may officially begin the meeting.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to the meeting of Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum Authority, Friday, July 21st, 2023. It is to raise your hands so that we may see the number of speakers in the queue. We will note the last name in the container before we take comments. The host will call the identifiers of each raised hand one by one to allow comment. Please do not raise your hand before the invitation to speak. The host will lower the hands of those who raised their hands before the invitation. All members of the public at the time of
goods outside of. In the case of the Coliseum, we have a tragic problem of there being absolutely nothing to do for people. You may not remember, but I do because it's also on my video on Zennie 6200 Coliseum Origins that Steve Lowe, Frank Dobson, and Bob Lesty, rest in peace to Mr. Lesty and Frank Dobson, had the idea for what became Coliseum City because there was nothing for anybody to do, not even eat. Fast forward to today, that is still the case. And at least these folks provide some way of congregating for fans and eating before a person has to enter a game or even after. Plus, it's just good economic development to help them. But it puts us collectively in the pose of looking racist and classist. We treat them as we do, or at least as it has been proposed to do as Joint Powers Authority policy. I am asking you, please stop this behavior. Please stop this policy. And please go back to doing what we used to do as a great city, economic development for these folks. There is no reason, no logical reason to keep them out. I've heard the reasons. They can serve as a raison d'etre to form policy that helps them. This is simply a matter of will. There is no logical reason, I repeat, no logical reason to treat them as the current policy proposes. It must be stopped before it gets too far and makes us look worse in process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public speakers?
At this time, there's no one else with their hand raised.
Thank you so much. We may call the next item.
Next item is approval of minutes.
Thank you so much. On the minutes, to the team, we would note that I believe there were 2 copies of the minutes produced. The first listed it as June 16th as a special board meeting, and then there was a second copy provided, which removed the word special as it was not a special meeting. But unfortunately, Aaron Roseman's name was misspelled in the second copy. the one that does not say special. So I would, it's Roseman, Roseman. Feel free to let me know if I got that wrong. No, that's right. Okay.
We'll correct.
So I would move that we adopt the corrected minutes for June 16th.
Move the corrected minutes.
Second. Okay. Are there any speakers on this item?
At this time in the queue, I do not see anyone with their hand raised for approval of minutes.
All right, we may call the roll.
For number 4, approval of minutes, item moved by Commissioner Jenkins, second by Vice Chair Miley. Commissioner Baker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Halbert?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Iglesias is excused. Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson is excused. Commissioner Vukasin is excused. Vice Chair Miley?
Aye.
And Chair Kaplan?
Aye.
That is 5 ayes. Next item on the agenda is reports.
Excellent. Something sounds like it fell, but it doesn't appear to be here. You're okay? You got everything? Okay, nothing coming on our heads. Excellent. Mr. Executive Director, the floor is yours for your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I review my report with you, would you please introduce our new city administrator who has joined us here at the table?
Well, I would be most thrilled to, as a matter of fact. I'm very pleased to share with everyone that the Mayor of Oakland has hired our new city administrator, Mr. Justin Johnson, who has joined us and has been thrown into the deep end and is already very hard at work undertaking the various tasks required to lead the city of Oakland. And we're very thankful for your presence and your diligence. And let me give you a moment to say hello to everybody.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Gardner. Certainly delighted to have the opportunity to join such a distinguished body. This is certainly, it's been quite an experience thus far. Very early on, when I joined the city, I had an opportunity to break bread with Mr. Gardner, so that was quite, it was quite an experience for us to just talk and just have constructive dialogue and guidance. So his wisdom certainly has served me well very early in my tenure. The staff, the city of Oakland have been phenomenal. We have Director Roseman. She's been one of my go-to leaders in the organization, and she has absolutely been extraordinarily helpful. So I just wanted to make sure I acknowledge her. But thank you for the opportunity to say a few words, and certainly looking forward to future participation with this particular body.
Thank you so much.
He's off camera, folks, to the left, by the way. Oh, they didn't realize they couldn't hear me.
Madam Chair, I have 3 items that I'd like to review with you. The first is an issue that we have been addressing for some time, and it's the noise, as the complainants say to us, that emanates from certain events here at the complex. We have tried to manage that over the years, and I am proud to say that in the last couple of years, I think that we have had less than 5 complaints. I would point out that we do get complaints from one of our residents, multiple complaints from the same person who lives in the area off of 23rd Avenue near the Park Street Bridge going into Alameda. I did learn something about that because we have had occasional complaints from other people from Alameda, not from Oakland. And I did some very sophomoric analysis of that and conferred with some engineers and learned something that was rather interesting. That sound travels through water and appears to be louder at the place where the water is than it is at the place where the sound originates. And that may help to explain why some of those complaints are coming from those areas. We do track these complaints. We check with the mayor's office because we know that's where many people call when there is a complaint. We monitor the ones that we receive here at the complex, and we ask Oakland Police Department for complaints that they may have received and ask them to ask the Alameda Police. There have been very few. As you well know, the complex was developed in what was at the time and what remains pretty much the same as an industrial area. There were not that many residents in this area. That notwithstanding, we have really been conscientious in trying to control the noise. We get complaints occasionally, but again, very few, from the A's games, and that's mainly from the fireworks. Those do not last very long. And we had a discussion over a year ago about what kinds of things we might undertake to mitigate, we hope, all complaints. And the complaints come from areas where we have activity in the Coliseum or in the parking lot. None from the arena because that is a completely enclosed venue. We agreed months ago that we would request the city of Oakland to modify its amplification ordinance, sound amplification ordinance, because that ordinance says that there shall be no noise that is disturbing after 10 p.m. During COVID, the city invoked its emergency powers and authorized the city administrator on a case-by-case and exceptional basis to issue permits that would allow activity to go up until 11 p.m. That ordinance, as I believe now, has expired. We have no immediate pending activities, but we want to ask the city to consider amending the sound amplification ordinance that would allow us to have up to 12 events a year. That would go until 11 p.m. The ordinance would be in effect for 4 years. And at that point, it would have to be amended or would expire. We did commit also that we would engage an engineering firm to do a testing and make recommendations about what really exceeds an excessive noise level and stay within that. Many of the concerts that we do have outside start at 8 o'clock. By the time they really start, if you've been to any of those, it's more like 8:30, and they go until 11 o'clock. But that would be the absolute cutoff time. You say, turn the thing off. So that's where we are. We propose to make the request to the city in probably September or October to amend the ordinance. I'd be happy to respond to any questions or concerns that you might have.
Well, thank you so much. And I do agree that the complaints received, at least on the city end, seem to be primarily related to the fireworks and a couple of people who don't live particularly close to the site, which is interesting. I think either because the noise is bouncing to them or also because the people who lived close to the site don't complain, even though it is loud, because perhaps they expected it or are not complaining for various reasons. In terms of the 11 o'clock, you mentioned we did have the emergency allowance for the 11 o'clock. And how did that go in terms of the experience of having the 11 o'clock?
Again, we received very few complaints during that period. To your point about residents who live nearby, because I was concerned about a concert that we're going to have in the stadium, I came out that night and drove around the area and went and parked my car for some time at the locations nearest to the stadium. Couldn't hear a thing. I stopped several people as they were driving in or driving out, and told them who I was. And they said once they closed their doors, they didn't hear anything. I also talked with our police officers. It was a very large event, 2 nights, I think, in a row. And I talked to some of our officers, and they said, well, they could hear standing outside across the railroad tracks. They said they could hear sound, but it wasn't loud by any means. And they said that nobody complained to them. That we didn't receive any complaints except from Alameda. And we got a complaint from a resident in Alameda.
Interesting. Excellent. Okay, other comments or questions? I just want to clarify, this is not before us today for a vote. This
No,
is
just
your
to inform you
report,
that I'm making the
and that
request of the
you
council.
intend to bring a more formal action request. And of course, since we're blessed by the presence of our city administrator, if you want to make any comment about it now, or also just now, you can know about this, so you can have follow-up if you like. I think that was, we'll talk, you guys will talk about it further, since we're not voting on this today. To my colleagues, anybody have any further comment at this time? Okay, well, thank you for bringing that, and I don't see any hands raised. Oh, we do have a hand raised?
Yes, we have one hand raised. Zennie Abraham has his hand raised. Did you want to do it for the whole 5A, or each item?
Actually, thank you for asking.
To the speaker, would you like to make your comments for item 5 now, or wait till the end of the report?
Thank you for asking. I'll wait until the end of the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you may continue, Mr.
Thank you.
Director.
The second item is the 2022-23 net budget surplus. I have been cautious, has been my practice.
Oh, yes.
Not to overstate the case, I'd rather tell you that it's going to be less and find out that it's more than the other way around. As we were approaching the end of the fiscal year, things were looking very good. And I had reported earlier that we expected a net surplus of approximately $4 million. I was doing what I have tried to teach everybody else to do, to be conservative in these estimates. Not unreasonably so, but wanted to be cautious because all the numbers were not in, and you can always have a hiccup towards the end. But we did not have a hiccup, and therefore the surplus is $8 million. And my recommendation, as it has been in the past, when there is a net surplus, that we reduce the city and the county's contribution by that amount, equally, 50-50. And so as we go forward, I will be recommending that this next fiscal year, that the city's contribution and the county's contribution would be reduced by $4 billion respectively. We have sufficient reserves. That's always an issue when you have a surplus. What amount of that, or if all of it, should be dedicated to reserves. It is not possible to anticipate all eventual events, but we have sufficient reserves to address any major capital needs that we have not yet estimated. Obviously, that does not include earthquakes. You'll never have enough reserves for that anywhere. So except for that kind of catastrophe, our reserves are sufficient to meet any unexpected expenditures. And therefore, my recommendation, again, is that we reduce the reliance on the city and the county for next fiscal year by $4 million respectively.
Well, thank you so much. This is incredibly important and great news. And I want to share that as we've been discussing the City of Oakland budget, and I had the honor to be a member of the council president's budget team, we did in fact talk about the JPA and the success here as part of how we could amend the City of Oakland budget and find money for vitally needed services. And I note, of course, this today is not an action item. And so we did already account for the $2 million that we had discussed previously. So in order to bring the additional millions back to our city budget, and also, of course, to our colleagues, the county budget to be able to use for public services, do we need then for us to formally adopt that as an action item of this body, I believe?
We will bring that to you in September, but wanted you to know that that amount is pretty firm.
That is wonderful. So that's good news to our city team. We're going to be able to come back in the fall and have some more money that we can allocate to various public needs, but it will have to be adopted here first, is my understanding.
Yes, and I failed to point out, although I did in my written notes, but in my oral presentation, I failed to give credit where it is due. This is a result of the absolute superior work that we get from the AEG management team headed by Nicole Strange. They do incredible work. And they will tell you that you made a comment of looking for money, and I would always respond that there's nothing hidden, but I've been looking for money. And they hear the sermon every time we talk. We have an obligation to the city and to the county to streamline our operations, to market the heck out of this place, to bring in all the revenues that we can, because as long as I have the microphone, I will always remind everybody where this subsidy comes from. When the city and the county subsidize our operations, I know exactly where it comes from, and I remind everybody where it comes from. It comes from your general fund.
Thank you. That is absolutely right. And in the past couple of years, there's been a lot of effort here, both in terms of the recovery and in terms of the marketing and attracting new events and new opportunities. And I really want to thank the whole team for that. And we'll look forward to that action item in September that will allow us then to free up that money. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this item?
Certainly good news. I'm appreciative to the AEG team. And as Councilmember or Chair Kaplan was saying, I was on the president's budget team, and it's a stretch for us right now in the city of Oakland. And this is great news for us.
Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to that action item. Let us, you may continue with the.
And the third is just to highlight that historically you have taken a recess in the month of August, is my understanding, and you have ever since I've been here. One of the reasons for that, I think, is that both the city and the county, the city council and the board of supervisors take their recess in the month of August, and that's half of our board. And so I don't think there's any formal action required, but wanted to highlight that. And if that is your will, we will plan on the September meeting, not the August meeting.
And so that would make our next date
the third Friday in September. I don't know
September
the date offhand, but
15th.
I think that's right. Whatever the third Friday is in September.
Absolutely. And if we do decide as a result of the various other attorney discussions that we need a special meeting,
absolutely,
in the interim, we will poll everyone for availability in August.
And I've highlighted that. And yes, of course, if there is something that's urgent and that we need to take action during the month of August, we will poll the board and see if we can get a quorum. If that should happen, it hasn't since I've been here, we expect it would be a single item. So if we do have a special meeting, it should be brief.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So
that concludes my report. I think if there are any questions from the board, or I think there's one from the public, I'd be happy to respond to any of the items that I've highlighted.
Well, thank you so much. So we have one public speaker who may call the speaker.
The speaker with the hand raised is Zennie Abraham. You're allowed to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Roseman. I much appreciate it. Through the chair, I am, first of all, Henry, I want to congratulate you on the work that you've done in steering the fiscal discipline of the Joint Powers Authority. The last time I spoke on this matter, I called for something I haven't seen. I suppose I have to calculate it myself, is what is our potential revenue from such things as, for example, naming rights. Let me explain where I'm going with this. When I formed what is now Oakland's only bid to host the Super Bowl, we last lost to Jacksonville. What was then called Street Smith Sports Business Journal estimated our naming rights value at 80 million. So if you fast forward that to today, it's around 200 million. That should tell you right there that we are far less and far behind where we can be. Now, I know people are going to mention the loss of sports organizations and so on, But I simply take that as a challenge to improve, and I hope that you will join me in thinking that way. And rather than congratulate ourselves for base hits, which is fine, we have to start thinking about where we can go and aggressively get there. Don't think of them as impossibilities. Think of them as possibilities. We're a multi-billion-dollar organization, and we have to actually do better at that. We haven't done any visioning. So we have to have the vision for where we need to go, especially right now, to get us out of this quagmire we faced. There are ways to do it. We all know it at this table. We simply just have to do it. We have to will ourselves to be that organization, to be as great as our competitors, or better, I say, across the bay from us, let alone California. We have to be aggressive. We have to want to do better than everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any further comments or questions from my colleagues?
I would just respond briefly that the Joint Powers Authority has historically had naming rights for the arena and for the stadium. We are actively pursuing the potential for naming rights for the arena now. As you know, we have had naming rights on the stadium. We had an agreement with Ring Central, and we are now concluding that arrangement. But we have actively pursued naming rights for these facilities in the past. One of the limitations, of course, right now is that there is a real possibility that the stadium may not be used well into the future. And so that is something that would be of concern to a potential sponsor for the stadium. Not an issue for the arena, because no proposal I've ever seen in the last 10 years proposed to demolish the arena. But until there is more certainty about the future of the stadium, that would be a challenge for naming rights for that facility.
Thank you for that comment. And obviously this would have to be a future agenda item, and it does impact a closed session item. So I want to be careful what we talk about outside of closed session. But once we get beyond the closed session matter with regard to the prior naming rights deal, I did want to flag, and so I'll share now that I do want us to look at the potential of a new naming rights deal, even if it has to be done on a shorter term than we've done before, right? So we might look for a new one that's, rather than 10 years, you know, to look for one that goes, you know, shorter time horizon with then a renewability depending on the future decisions about the future of the site. So that would be something we could do, so that at least we could bring in naming rights in the interim. And then just I'll make a comment for my colleagues and everybody involved that this also touches on the fact that the question of what we will be doing in the Coliseum after 2024 becomes important for multiple reasons. That knowing that is important for the jobs, it's important for the community, it's important for the neighborhood, but it's also important for our ability to bring in other revenue streams that are tied to it. So making sure, as we start to plan out our future agendas and our city-county interaction, that looking at, you know, what we're going to be doing with soccer, what we're going to be doing with other activities, so that we can have some clarity around activation of the site, will also impact other people's interest in investing their money here. So, so we will make sure that we are following up on those topics as well. And thank you. Anything else from my colleagues? This is not an action item at this time, so we can go to the general manager report. And let me just start by saying thank you so much for your incredible diligence in expanding the attraction efforts and the marketing of the facility. Let me go ahead.
Thank you. Excuse me. I would definitely like to thank Henry for his leadership. We've had 2 extremely successful back-to-back years, and that has a lot to do with Mr. Henry Gardner. He's an amazing leader, amazing person to work with, and I actually enjoy talking to you almost every day, Henry.
And likewise.
And I'd be remiss to not give kudos where kudos are due. We have the best team in the business, ASM Global Oakland, and some of my team members are behind me, and they really are the best at what they do. So kudos to the team behind me. I'll just give a little update on the event activity. So the added events, Sonu Nigam, September 2nd, 2023. Kali Uchis, September 26th. Aniversario de la Raza, October 14th. Kirk Franklin, November 5th. Pancho Barraza, November 18th. And a couple canceled events. Jubin Natio, it was on July 29th, that has been canceled. And Lil Durk, it was on September 1st, that has been canceled. One miscellaneous item, the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day 2023. Oakland Arena and Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum hosted the Household Hazardous Waste Disposal event on July 9th, and it was a tremendous success. Over 250 participants from Alameda County showed up to dispose of their household hazardous waste, medication, medical sharps, and e-waste. 2 tractor trailers full of these items were collected to be safely disposed of. Overall, a remarkable success working with Alameda County, Clean Harbors, and ACSO. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I believe you've also rolled out the advertising materials for businesses and groups and people to book smaller scale events. I mean, besides these large concerts that folks can book the various rooms and facilities here for business events and personal events as well. How's that going?
We have our private events business arm. It's doing very successful. You can have your proms here, your weddings here, your business meetings here, birthday parties here. You name it, we can do it. We have many, many spaces here. We also have private events we can host over at the Coliseum, in the parking lot, at the arena. You could host your birthday party in the former NBA champions locker room. So many, many really cool places to have meetings and conferences and proms and the like.
Thank you. And I believe you recently released a video to promote that.
We did release a video. It's on our website. You can check it out. I believe I sent it to all of you. But we did have a showcase here in April, inviting many event professionals to just take a look and just showcase both the stadium and the arena and the parking lots to show people what they can imagine doing here.
Thank you so much. And just my colleagues wanted everyone to be aware of that, because we all know folks who book events and have lists of folks that we share information with. And I know you did send out that video last time. Maybe for our next meeting, we can have it in the agenda so that with the link, so members of the public who follow our agendas would be able to see that and share that out. And then members of the board can have that to share with anyone we talk to. And our new city administrator, I think, may not have received it yet as well, to share that back out so we can pass that along. But thank you so much for the work. Okay, questions or comments on this report? Mr. Miley.
Yeah, Nicole, how was the household hazardous waste event promoted? What was the outreach for that?
It's promoted on the website, social media, email blasts through us and Alameda County. And it was a drive-through event. So people just drove in through 66, drove through in a lot, dropped off their stuff and drove right out. So it was very seamless and secure and easy for folks to drop off.
Did we get information about that?
I believe I sent something over about the event.
Okay, because I don't recall, but okay.
And then we also have a space on our website. If you go on the menu bar under About Us in Oakland Arena News, we post a bunch of news articles and other things there too.
Excellent. Anything else? Okay, do we have any public speakers?
At this time, I see one hand raised in the queue, Zennie Abraham.
All right.
Oh, real quick through the chair, just a suggestion that, thank you, Ms. Strange, for your presentation, that you focus more on video, YouTube in particular, because YouTube has a fantastic component with respect to search engine optimization, and also make that with Instagram and in a more of a spread fashion, but also with respect to search engine optimization, because when I do my search on events related to the Coliseum, they're disparate and they need a home in terms of keywords, and they lack one. Just a bit of friendly advice. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Zennie, for your many, many, many years of work and advocacy on these issues. So we had a suggestion to work on our YouTube and Instagram presence. So thank you for that very much. And I see the staff nodding, they're taking that in. Mr. Gardner.
Madam Chair, if we could circle back to the hazardous waste
Yes.
drop off. Without overwhelming our efforts, I think that we should specifically send information to the city council through our chair and to the board through our vice chair, so that you can make announcements in your meetings of when this is going to happen.
Excellent.
People are always struggling with what to do with the paint cans, and then the process you have to go through is quite challenging.
Oh, very much so. No, I would really appreciate that. And we can then push that out to all of our contact lists and such. Thank you so much. Great work. And we may take the next item.
Okay. Items
is an action item. So yes.
Item 6, new business. A resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the Fourth Amendment to the agreement for consulting services between the Oakland-Alameda County Coliseum Authority and Henry L. Gardner, extending the term for up to 1 year with no change to the annual compensation of $202,265,000 with a $313.50 monthly automobile allowance.
Thank you. Mr. Executive Director, do you want to give a report on this matter, or should we just?
Absolutely not. I defer to the council.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. We engaged in extensive, difficult negotiations with Mr. Gardner to amend his contract. It is no change in his compensation, merely an extension for a term of 1 year and no other revisions to the agreement. We recommend approval.
And so the 1 year is ending what date? Is it a fiscal year or a calendar year, or to what date?
It is tied to the employment date, which is August 1 through July 31st of the calendar year.
So this is an extension to July 31st, 2024?
Correct.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I want to say I'm very, very pleased to have the leadership of our former Oakland City Manager and great person, Henry Gardner, in this body here. And happy to support the item before us after the very heavy, heated negotiations, I'm sure. Are there any questions or comments?
I'd like to move the item.
I'll second.
Mr. Miley.
Yes, I just want to say, really value Henry Gardner's services to the JPA. We've had a few executive directors here over the course of time. I particularly appreciate Henry, having worked with him when I was on the Oakland City Council, and his experience at ABAG and other arenas, the National Forum of Black Public Administrators, things of that nature. So I'm really hoping that as the Coliseum area in the JPA go through this kind of transition, not having the Raiders and the Warriors, and probably not the A's, and we try to see how we're going to reimagine and make sure that this continues to be a viable space for the city of Oakland within the county of Alameda. I'm confident Mr. Gardner can help us launch that ship in a positive direction. So I'm wholeheartedly supportive of renewing his contract for another year.
Awesome. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any speakers on the item?
Yes, in the queue, we have Zennie Abraham with his hand raised.
You may go ahead.
Yeah, I'm only speaking because I don't want when Rebecca happens to say are there any speakers, no one says anything that gives the bad look. So, Henry, you've done once again a great job of saving us at a time that we needed it, and so I just want to congratulate you for all that you've done, and say once again, great work, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we may call the roll.
On item number 6, moved by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Vice Chair Miley. Commissioner Baker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hallberg?
Enthusiastically, aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Iglesias is excused. Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson is excused. Commissioner Vukasin is excused. Vice Chair Miley?
Aye.
Thank you. And Chair Kaplan?
Aye.
That's 5 ayes.
The item passes. Congratulations, sir. We've got you here for another year.
So the next item on the agenda, item 7, is closed session, conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9B1 case.
Thank you very much. Correct me, counsel, if I'm wrong, but I believe we're supposed to see if there's public comment on the going into closed session before we go?
Yes, we can ask. Might be interesting to see who guesses what this case is, but correct, we need to ask.
Okay, so so if there is public comment on the adjournment in a closed session, we would take that public comment at this time.
At this time, I see one hand raised in the queue. That is Zennie Abraham.
Go ahead.
No, I changed my mind on that one. I apologize for that, Ms. Roseman. So
Thank you. So at this time, the board is going to go into closed session. That means we're going to go into a different room where we have discussions on matters that are legally required to be confidential. So we will be leaving this room and going into our closed session room. And then I would just flag for the team, as many are leaving, that as we start looking ahead to the September agenda and preparing items for the future, I did want to flag to everybody's attention that the World Cup soccer is coming to California and the United States in 2026. And while 2026 might seem a long way off in the world of large-scale event planning, it's not that far off. So to think about, and this of course is intertwined with the whole question of the future of the facility and what will be going on here, but things that we could do, though we aren't a World Cup game site, but to harness the excitement and the spin-off events that tend to happen around World Cup as World Cup is coming to California and the the surrounding areas on that time horizon. Also looking ahead for future agenda items, we will want to circle back on the WNBA, which we've been working on for the arena, as well, of course, on the Roots and Soul coming here, and the matter of naming rights, as well as the further questions about events in the parking lot. We talked today about the potential end time for the events in the parking lot. And as we follow up on that, I want to make sure we also talk about the other logistics, including, for example, how to handle food and beverage potentially for events in the parking lot as well. So I'm just flagging those as, for future discussion. So I know as we go to closed session, then some of the team has to go do other things. So I thought I would mention those now, and also just open the floor if anybody wants to mention or suggest any other future agenda items now, just so the whole team can hear them and plan ahead for September. Seeing none, we can now go ahead and go to our closed session. To the members who are participating by Zoom, do they need to join a different link?
I believe there is a different link, so.
Yes.
And have they been sent to our Zoom members? You have your Zoom closed session link?
Though it'll be sent momentarily.
Okay, so it's being emailed to them right now? Okay, so to our board members on the Zoom, you're being sent a separate link for
board
the
members. Oh, they
to
meant
Zoom
us.
into closed session. So we will
Nope.
see you on the other screen shortly. Thank you. With that, we may go to closed session.
My soul behind me in an
Okay, folks,
old cathedral.
they are going to close session, and what happens is that what they do is they get out of that, and everybody just leaves. They'll come out. We've never seen this before, and then they'll say, "Okay, it's adjourned." All right, so um, that's what's going on here. So what I'm going to do is knowing that's the drill, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me. There's 7 of you, but it doesn't look like there's a lot of comments. This one, I think, closed sessions in progress. Okay. So that's what they're saying. I'm going to leave that because I know the drill there. And I'm going to leave the webinar. So I'm going to leave that webinar. Okay. That's out. Also, I have a engagement with Comic-Con coming up in a few minutes at 1:00. The Black panel, which I'm supposed to be on, but obviously I'm not there, starts at 10:00, which is 1:00 Eastern. And that's Michael Davis' annual event in San Diego at the Comic-Con, and we're talking about some very special issues. So I can't wait to be a part of that in the way that he proposes. So we'll have to see. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. I'll be back with more. I've got a rejoinder to Ken Rosenthal coming up later today. And also we're working on a new website, Zennie 62 Media is. Can't wait to roll it out. Very excited, folks. All right. Always looking for investors. We will have 5 WordPress sites by the time this is officially launched when it comes next week. All right. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, wait a minute. I was going to get the comments. Hey, Logan. D. Brown says was a good run for Henry. Great speech, but they don't care. Thank you. They should just demolish the Coliseum. No, I do not agree with that. The Coliseum is an unpolished gym that needs to be upgraded, rehabilitated, and around it, we need to see through to the reality that was Coliseum, that was supposed to be Coliseum City. What I don't like about these reports of, well, there's too much noise and all of this, it's a multi-billion-dollar facility. And people have to understand that if you're going to have a multi-billion-dollar economic engine that has such things as late night into the midnight performances by some of the top stars in the world, you're going to get noise. And you should enjoy that noise as a neighbor because it's the noise of money that benefits the region and you. The problem that Oakland has right now is that a lot of people don't think that way. We have to have them. We literally have to make them think that way. All right. All right. I'll see you a little later. Bye-bye. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, naming rights. See ya. See you, John.